Hi guys, welcome to Lachlan Pirie's channel. I am today your host, Daniel Munro. We were supposed to do this on my Instagram page, but unfortunately my internet connection is made out of wood. So Lachlan has kindly agreed to do this interview on his YouTube channel. First of all, Lachlan, introduce yourself, please, your full name, and tell us a little bit about yourself in person, because I don't think we know much about Lachlan Pirie, the person. We know you as an author, but we
Mm.
don't know much about yourself. So where are you from and what do you do in your spare time when you're not writing?
So full name, Lachlan David Pirie, but Lachlan Pirie is fine. So I'm in Australia. I'm on the Gold Coast, which is a very nice place to be. It's beaches, sunny weather, really good spot to grow up. And yeah, I grew up on the Gold Coast in Australia. And yeah, so on the side of writing, I work as a surveyor or land surveyor. And yeah, I did that because I was good at maths in high school. And yeah, I just wanted to be outdoors rather than in an office. So yeah, I
I
went
don't,
down that path. I did 5 years of uni, came qualified as a surveyor. And yeah, now I'm working as a surveyor. And yeah, no, it's a good job, and I did surveying because I wanted a good plan B that, it doesn't matter whether writing becomes a big success to me or not. Like, I have a good job, I live in a really good part of the world, and yeah, just enjoy life while you have it, basically. Um, so yeah, like things on the side of writing are like going awesome for me. And yeah, so like writing is like still my number one passion in life. I've like always been into writing. I was a writer when I was a little kid. I fell away from it when I was in high school, and then I came back to it when I discovered screenwriting. And I saw screenwriting as a way to get into the film industry. And ever since I discovered screenwriting, like getting into the film industry as a writer has been like my number one goal. Um, but it's a very sort of slow moving goal. I've realized, yeah, just getting projects done and accumulating awards is just, yeah, it takes time. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
that's all good. It's good to actually. A lot of people don't know that sort of side of you, man. I suck at maths, so I couldn't do what you do for a
Yeah,
living. But
yeah.
I have been to Queensland. I've been to Australia twice, so I've been to that part of the world, and yeah, it is beautiful up there. For all of you who do know Lachlan from Instagram, you will know that he's just released, or in current stage of pre-order, his debut novel, The Resolution, which I am currently art reading right now. It's always amazing to speak to a fellow thriller author. I will get that word out properly. Um, the Resolution, which released on February the 28th. And I don't know if you know this, Lachlan, but that is actually my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anyone out there want to do me a good birthday present, get Lachlan's book, because I am about 2/3 of the way through, I want to say right now.
Awesome.
And it's been something incredible. I've been looking for something unique for a while, and this sort of happened between me and Lachlan with a little bit of messages back and forth. We were planning on this. Some things did come up in the middle, but we've managed to find a resolution for the resolution. There's
Yeah.
no pun intended there. But yeah, what I'm really liking about it, Lachlan, I know you had some feedback from other readers, where they've called your main characters unlikable.
Mm.
And given the context of your book, for someone who might not have seen it, it does involve two convicts.
Mm.
Not to say all convicts are bad, because some people end up in prison just because of bad circumstances. But these two, your two main characters, Daniel in particular, are very unlikable, and I actually love it because these are people who have done bad things. They haven't rehabilitated, and they want to carry on doing bad things.
Mm.
For your debut novel, man, that is a bold move. What made you want to go down that path?
Yeah, so um Pretty much when I was going into the bookstore, I was finding that I was just really disliking the content in the thriller section because it was just so predictable. Like, because the character is like the upstanding protagonist, you always know that the protagonist is going to win at the end of the day. Like, they're going to solve the mystery. There's going to be some sort of, problem thrown in the protagonist's way, and they'll eventually come to a solution. And like, while that's a good, um, storyline, I think it's just been done to the T. It's just, there's just so many books that are just formally just copies of each other done in a different sort of
It's
way.
almost formulaic. It's almost formulaic.
Yeah, it's formulaic and it's sort of the same story, but in a different setting with like, different names for the characters. And so, yeah, I decided, stuff being, formulaic, um, I'm just gonna make like this book as original as I possibly can. And I've sort of gone out of my way to be unique. And in the course of doing that, I sort of looked towards writers that were unique, and that didn't, you know, sort of follow the crowd. And I ended up sort of like emulating writers that probably like aren't as well known as like the mainstream thriller writers, but they're like classic authors,
Yeah,
who've done books that have like, yeah, they've just been around for like, over 100 years. Like there was this guy, Graham Greene, who like wrote books in the 1940s. Same as Patricia Highsmith. Like they were like really good at like looking into psychological fiction, and they had a very sort of unique way of doing that. And I sort of look towards those authors as inspiration to really, yeah, just set it apart from typical modern thriller writing. And yeah, so here I am. I've tried my best to do it, and like my reviews so far is that this book is very unique, and that's what I wanted.
it's 100%, man. It is 100% that. I can tell you right now. Like even when we started speaking about this, I was instantly taken back. Like that is a bold move, I think, for any writer to do, because I think people are looking for that safer route today when it comes to fiction.
Mm.
And yeah, you haven't shied away from it at all. You've hit the nail really on the head. I said particularly with Daniel's character and that first sort of meeting that you get to see him with his wife,
Mm.
and prison guard. It's like, yeah, you've sold him pretty well. And you're not supposed to root for him, but you are engaged in the story, and that is a real skill.
Mm.
So I've got to give you full credit for that, man. Um, I was about to say what inspired the storyline. You sort of did give a bit of an answer there, but what inspired the actual storyline itself? I know you were looking to do something different, but the actual plot, what
Yeah,
made you want to
so
stick to the plot?
I first started thinking about the plot when, so my parents are lawyers, and they represented this couple in Western Australia, who are like, they were an indigenous couple. They were very messed up couple. Like they had like multiple domestic violence offenses against each other. So like they were like living in a park at one stage, and she would like try beating the guy to death, and then he would try beating her up like the following week and stuff. And every time they like came back to each other, and they still like loved each other. Like they'd be in court, and like the guy would be sentenced, and the woman, she would just like burst into tears and like say she loves him and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, like, what can make a person be like that? Like how like deluded do you have to be to like stay together despite, all these like really like serious things that you've done to each other. And that's sort of what sparked me to really investigate these characters and sort of create a plot around these characters, that sort of, yeah, went into their psyche and stuff, and like really looked at like why they did what they did. Um, and yeah, so that sort of naturally led me to the prison setting. Um, and yeah, like Jonathan Little, the other character who didn't like, he wasn't part of this guy and this woman's relationship before, he just happened to meet this guy in prison. I wanted to make him very different to the indigenous guy who's he's very violent. He's like a white collar criminal basically. He's been convicted of grand larceny. He's a lot smarter than this other guy, and he's sort of like he has a different viewpoint on his relationship with his ex-wife. Like he's like he hasn't been attached to her in the same way this other guy has. So you have different like views on relationships. You have
Yeah,
different like social like levels. So you've got someone like down at the bottom, someone that is intelligent, like knows what they're doing. And so yeah, once I had those characters in my mind, the plot sort of started to unravel. And I could see like these personas, like even though they're worlds apart, it's very interesting when they collide and then they start to work with each other. And yeah, that sort of led me into this plot. Um, and yeah, a few people have mentioned Strangers on a Train so far, and I have to say, like, I did not know about Strangers on a Train until I was like, yeah, halfway through like my first draft. I saw that and I was like, shit, this is too much. So Strangers on a Train, basically is like there's two strangers who are like meet each other on this train, and one guy's a psychopath and he's like, oh, I'll go and kill your dad for you if you go and oh yeah, he's like, I'll go and kill your dad if you go and kill my wife or something like that. And like the other
yeah,
guy's just like, what the hell are you talking about? And then doesn't do it, and then the psychopath like carries through with it, and like they meet each other for like I think it's like half an hour or something. But yeah, with my book, it's like I have to like point out to some people like it's quite different to that plot line. Like you've got the two characters that meet each other. They're in a prison cell for like 4 years, so
yeah,
they were both engaged in creating this plot to they weren't just a happenstance meeting that was like 30 minutes. They've like mulled over this plot for years in prison. And then yeah, they have the same sort of thing like I'll go and take care of your wife if you go and take care of my wife. And one guy is like he's a lot more crazy than the other guy about like committing the actual act, but he's yeah, he's also like very conflicted, and you have very like conflicted personalities. I won't spoil what happens, but like one guy will like, he'll think about doing something and then he'll like do the direct opposite. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a very yeah, tricky sort of unraveling of events.
It is, man. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It is thoroughly enjoyable. Even with the characters, as you say, you're not supposed to root for people like that. I said it before. The plot just works with it. You just follow it, and it's as you say. They were together in the cell for, is it 3 to 4 years, something like
Yeah, it was
that.
like 4 years, yeah.
So you so you also get to know the person as well.
Yeah.
Um, it, it's yes. How long would you say it took you to write it from the very first draft to publishing?
Oh, that's a big question, man. So I wrote it as a screenplay first. Like I said, I didn't like get into writing books until I discovered screenwriting. So I wrote the screenplay pretty quick. Like my first draft wasn't that good. It would have been like 2 or 3 months. I had the first like screenplay done. And then like once I had the finalized screenplay, um, well, even before that, I turned the screenplay into a play. I was actually going to do this as a play on stage. That's why the dialogue in some sections it's quite long. Um, and then once I turned the play into a like back into a screenplay, and then decided, yeah, I'm going to try and publish a book. It probably took me like 6 to 8 months to write the first draft. Um, and then yeah, me sent from then I sent that first draft. Actually, I edited it quite a bit, so it'd probably end up around a year. And then I sent that draft to my editor, and that just holy moly, that took way too long. It was just like a lot of like emails back and forth. Like it wasn't even like us focused on editing sometimes. It was just like trying to pay for editing and trying to get money and stuff in my account to do that. And yeah, it came like a 3 year process
Oh
of
wow,
yeah, just getting this
wow.
editing done for the book. Um, and finally, after spending, money and time, it's just, yeah, I punched out this book. But like on saying that, I've learned so much from like that editing process. Like now I will only permit that editing process to be a year or less. Like I'm not going to take any longer than that to get the editing done. And my first, like I've written my second book, and my second book, like I've written it in such a way that I'm not so like critical of what I've done. I'm happy for it to be published. Just needs to go through the editing tricks and yeah, get it out into the world.
That's decent, man. Nice stuff. 3 years, man. 3 years for that editing stage.
Yeah.
That's mad. Um, so we've touched on it a little bit about your screenwriting. We've had a few chats about this over the past week, and you also got me quite interested in it as well because it does sound like a different kind of vibe. What's the main differences for all the authors who will be watching this? What is the main difference between writing a book and a screenplay? We obviously all know what a screenplay is, but what is the main difference in the actual process of doing it?
Yeah. So the screenplay, like I think all authors imagine their material as movies, basically, for them to process it and write it down. A screenplay basically gets that movie idea onto paper in a way that an actor or a director would understand it easily. So
Yeah.
you don't want an actor to spend, a few hours reading your book. You want them to finish off, like go through your whole story in like an hour. Um,
Okay.
and to do that, screenwriting's come about. And screenwriting basically is the dialogue from your story, but with the descriptions only like a few sentences long. So, like in my prison cell scene, I have like at the very beginning of the story,
Yeah.
where like Janet meets her husband Daniel, like I have like 6 or 7 pages of just dialogue of like just talking about Janet's personality, the people in the room, like what's brought her here. And I write that down for like 7 pages. In the screenplay, it's like 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Like Janet's in the room, Daniel comes in, he sits down, and then the dialogue happens. So it's a very like quick way of like getting the story out. And yeah, I love screenwriting, purely on the basis that like you can get your ideas down a lot quicker than if you did it if you like wrote a book first. And it also like allows you to like figure out like plot holes and stuff, and if your structure's wrong, because you can like a normal screenplay is like 120 pages, um, and like once you have those 120 pages, like you can cut out 10 pages and it not be like a huge deal. But if you wrote like 110,000 word book and then decided to cut out 10,000 words,
Yeah.
like it's a big deal. Like, you're gonna have to like really just Yeah, it's just a hard process to do it that way, and I couldn't accept to do that, and that's why I couldn't write a book until yeah, found out about screenwriting.
Excellent stuff, man. Yes, it does sound like a whole vibe, those chats that we've had. From me to you personally, I don't think I'm going to delve into that until I've done my own personal series, because
Mm.
that's just where I think my focus needs to be. But that sounds like, and just like one of the coolest things.
Mm.
What is, I need to phrase this question right. Obviously, you publish a book.
Mm.
What do you do with a screenplay? Obviously, you don't publish it. What's the next step once you've written it?
Yeah, so competitions is like one of the top ways. The other ways is, well, I was a part of this really interesting screenwriting group recently, and they were talking about producers and like what it takes for your book, well, your idea to be made into a movie, basically. Um, and the way the filmmaking world is works, sorry, is that the producers are the people who make movies. The directors don't make the movies, like the writers don't make the movies. It all relies upon the producers because they have the money, basically.
Okay.
So whoever has the money gets the movie made. Um, and the thing about screenwriting is like I've discovered like you need to create a rapport by like getting you know, awards and stuff, and I've started to do that, but you can't actually get your material like seen by an audience unless it's actually made, and that's what made me turn to books, because you can actually create something and then have it reviewed by the world. But with a
Yeah.
screenplay, like it could take like years. Like I've heard stories of people like taking like 10 years for their screenplay to be produced, but the producer just still won't do it because they haven't got funding to do it. So screenwriting is like, while it's very good to start off with and just to get ideas done, like it's a very like picky process, and you need to be just, yeah, careful about like how you go about it, and like don't rely solely on screenwriting, I think, because yeah, it's a very hard industry to crack, even more than the book writing world, because yeah, like the cost of a book compared to a movie is, it's like, you know, it's a few $1,000s to self-publish, but like a book is, I mean, but a movie, you're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, it's going to be a lot more of a big deal. But yeah, that's just the movie, right? The movie industry. And like, I love movies, and I'm just set on, you know, slowly working my way into it while, you know, writing books on the side.
When it comes to the producers, this question has literally just popped in my head. But when it comes to the producers, do they look at your own personal accolades? So, say if they get a script from someone they've never heard of before,
Mm,
then they might not be as inclined. But if they got a script from someone like yourself and they find out that you're the author of a book and you've also maybe won 2 awards, are
mm.
they more inclined to pick your script then, or give your script more attention?
Absolutely, but it's gonna be have to be more than 1 or 2 awards, and
Yeah.
yeah, like you're gonna need like 300 awards, plus it being a best-selling book, plus having a lot of like traction in the media, and then you have like it made into a blockbuster movie. Like a lot of A-list movies, they're sort of picked off writers who've done extremely well at, yeah, like they've been traditionally published normally, and their
Okay.
books have gotten into bookstores like, you know, around the country and stuff, and they've been like highlighted, like The Woman in the Window, for example, and then they get made into, yeah, a movie. So it's, you have to be quite like well known for like a big, I'm talking about like Netflix and stuff to pick you up.
Yeah.
But then the people underneath Netflix, like the B grade directors and independent directors, like they can still get you into Netflix. But it's just, you need to actually like produce what they want. And yeah, in the screenwriting group I was with in yesterday, they were saying like, you know, it's not what you like, it's what the producer likes.
Yeah.
So if you can get something that the producer wants to do, then they might get you into Netflix if they're the right producer. Um, and yeah, it's just a matter of finding them basically and getting it to work with the right producer.
Okay. It's a lot more complex sounding than I imagined it in my head. But you do need that kind of reputation. You're saying you do have to be sort of known that this person can write, whether we take their own personal stuff or we hire them for our studio,
Mm,
essentially, how
yeah,
it sounds.
yeah.
Um, are there any particular genres that you want to screenwrite, or even for maybe some of your next books? Do you want to stay in the thriller crime department, or would you want to push out to maybe more sci-fi, something really random,
Yeah, so
erotica? No.
I was talking about this with another author recently who I did an interview with. So my first book is very different to the other stuff I've written. Like I've written in sci-fi, fantasy, um, thriller, action, crime. And I've written in all those genres. And they're just like I'm talking about the different screenplays that I've done. Like I've written a screenplay or TV pilot that's like a young adult series that's sort of the cross between Hunger Games and 1984. And like I'm in
Okay.
the process of turning that into a book at the moment, like halfway through it.
Hunger
And
Games in 1984. I'm,
yeah.
I'm sold already. I'm sold already.
Yeah, so like my first like I have to sort of say this like I probably will keep on saying it. Like my first book will be very different to my second book. Like I aim to like publish in young adult, then also have like maybe children's books, and then like have my fantasy books. Because I'm a very like I don't want to be stuck in like one genre.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to like screenwriting and stuff. Like I like to have like different options. Like when it comes to movie ideas. So when you're producing movies, you're not just writing like horror films. You know, you can also do thriller movies and stuff. And yeah, I just want to have that option. Yeah.
Okay, man. Wow. That's kind of led me on to my next question. Would you just want to do screenwriting, or would you want to go further into the movie industry, maybe more towards the directing or publishing?
Yeah.
Producing. Sorry.
Yeah. So like a lot of screenwriters become directors because
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah, it's like Christopher Nolan. He sort of was like a screenwriter and then broke in as a director. Um Same thing with like George Lucas and all these like really big um, filmmakers. They sort of just yeah they had screenplays and then they turned it into short films, and then those short films became bigger, and then yeah they eventually made movies. But yeah, like I've always loved the idea of making a movie. Like yeah, I'm you know, if I got the opportunity to do it, I would, but like it's not here nor there. If like, you know, if that doesn't come to pass, that's fine. But like writing's still the number one love in my life. And yeah, if I can find a way to make it work in Hollywood, then like yeah, my dreams been fulfilled basically. But yeah, if I can make money out of what I do, I've realized that um being a producer puts you in the best possible position. Um, and yeah, like you're talking about millions of dollars here, but like if you're finding that you're having success and you're building lots of reputation and income, then being a producer is yeah, that's the ideal situation because then you can do whatever you want. You can be the director, you can be the writer, and you can just yeah, you can make what you want happen. Um, yeah. Whereas, you know, for books, you can do that as well. You're basically the producer, which
Yeah,
makes books so good.
excellent stuff, man. Excellent stuff. Yeah, I'm starting to think about it a lot more now. Being a producer must be awesome because do you have can the studio sway you into producing something in particular, or is it 100% your own decision?
What do you mean when I'm not producing?
No, so if you're a producer of a movie
Hmm.
and it's going to be released, example maybe like through 20th century Fox Studios,
Hmm.
can they have a say over what's in the movie, can or do they have no input? It's just you as the producer that says what's in the movie.
Yeah, I think like they've definitely got regulations and stuff about like um like Warner Brothers, like they would have their own agreements with the producer. But the
I see.
producer for like 95%, they're the wheelers and dealers. So if they're persuasive enough, they can convince the studios to release certain material that, you know, might not be released. It's just in terms of like rating and stuff for the movie. But yeah, I think like Quentin Tarantino, for example,
Yeah,
is
I was
able
literally
to,
about to say him. I was
yeah,
literally about to say
he's
Tarantino.
able to produce like what he produces because he's funding it. It's his money.
Yeah,
So people like can't really say much about it because you know he's funding the whole thing. Um, so yeah, he's like in the best position you can possibly be, and that's what I dream of, being in that sort of shoes.
that's amazing, man. That's not a bad goal to have at all, man. Stick to
Yeah.
it, man. That's not a bad goal at all. So we've touched on your screenwriting. I don't think a lot of people knew that about you because we don't get to see the real Lachlan Pirie that much on Instagram. We know what you like, and we know what books you like and
Mm,
what you're
mm,
fired by. But we're going to go back to your debut novel, The Resolution. Now,
mm.
what challenges did you have during the writing or all the way through the writing publishing process? I know you spoke about the 3 year editing stage, but was there any other sort of like little mud piles that got in your way whilst you were
Yeah.
on the journey, or was it all
So is it
smooth
sort
sailing?
of what's happened in my life or in terms of writing?
Just in terms of writing the book itself.
Okay, so like a lot of the 3 years was just me understanding the writing process. Um yeah, because I hadn't written a book before. So yeah, like writing 100,000 words like seemed like pretty huge task to me. So yeah, just doing it and just understanding like my grammar and how I'm writing and stuff like that. It was a very sort of, I took my time with it, and I spent a lot of that time just molding my writing basically. And my second book, I found like I was able to punch it out within like a year, because like that I could figure out like what, when I'm writing something, I'm like, no, I'm just getting too like complicated here. I'm gonna stop. But when I was writing the resolution, my first draft, I'm just like, I just kept on writing, like I just let it flow basically. And then
Okay.
I had to like a year later, I had to look back at it, and I'm just like, I'm just letting this sort of word vomit, and like I'm not like thinking you know, straight about how I'm actually writing. So yeah, it was a very like long process of just understanding how I'm writing, how to do it efficiently. Um, and yeah, like I said, I learned a lot from that. Yeah, that editing stage, basically. Um, I'm just, yeah, how to write and not get carried away with myself, basically.
Okay. So you were learning your style or learning your writing voice, as some
Yeah,
people might say, figuring
yeah.
out what worked best for you and how to get the story out on paper.
Yeah.
To be fair, as a author myself, I went through exactly the same process. As it's not until maybe someone else has read it or you've gone back and reread it, and like I have no idea what I'm trying to say there, that you don't know what works for you, and it's starting off something fresh. As much as people might like writing, until you try, you don't know how your writing style sounds. But yeah, that's actually a really good point. And it's actually something I'm going to bring up now. These questions are just flowing into each other. It's going really well. There's certain ways when it comes to writing to do a character introduction. All authors have their own sort of way of introducing a character, and what you've done in the resolution with the sort of prologue and the first chapter, I think it is that you've introduced Daniel, but you've done it through essentially official police reports or exhibits underlining his personality without doing an actual introduction scene to him, but you learn so much about him in that time. One, I thought that was genius. I really love that, man.
Yeah.
Two, why? It's so simple to do that, but I don't know any author that's done it. How did your brain go, that's how we're going to do it for Daniel?
Yeah, so I was like looking at first person books, and it was like there was a book like Motherless Brooklyn, and it was like done in this first person style that was like you can obviously tell the guy's crazy, and it was done really, really well. And I'm like, I would love to have this in my book somewhere. So I just played with the idea of like putting a first person snippet somewhere in the book. So the majority of my book is third person omniscient, I think. So it's basically like you're doing third person writing, but it's from the character's thoughts, and position. But first person, like it allows you to sort of take that to another level. So you're not really like just stuck in the scene so much. You're actually like living life through the character. And like I said, I really wanted to do that. So I started playing with the idea that my main character, Daniel, had this alternate personality. And so Daniel, as a person, he can't read or write, but this alternate personality that he has is very smart, and he can read and write, and he can understand what's happening. But you never actually see this alternate personality in the third person omniscient perspective. So he's a very like mysterious side of Daniel. So yeah, once I figured out like that's what I'm going to do, then I started crafting the story around this alternate personality that Daniel has. And yeah, I looked to like something like that other book, like Mullis Brooklyn, for inspiration and stuff. But yeah, I started crafting like my own sort of character for this first person perspective. And he turned into like quite this sort of cynical, but like still very smart and very sort of like he knows what's happening more than any other character in the story. He's almost like a supernatural being that's sort of following these characters around, and he's got a very like dark humor to him, like to his writing. And I just love that character. So straight up, like I decided, yeah, I'm gonna put like excerpts of his view on the story throughout the resolution. So like it's probably like 1/4, maybe yeah, a bit more of the story is basically told through his perspective. And it's not spoilers to tell us, but like at the end of the story, the police find a diary, and in that diary is his notes, and that's told from the beginning of the story. So you have these diary notes that are sort of planted through the story to give you context of what this first person perspective is thinking of what's happening. And yeah, I just thought that was a really entertaining way to keep the story running, because you can have the third person like feel, but then when you want to like actually really get an idea of what's going on underneath, you skip to the next chapter and like you have this guy, his name's Tinkler, um, basically talking about, yeah, what's just happened, but from his perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, that as I say, was absolutely brilliant. It caught me really off guard because I knew the book was written in third person. I think we spoke about it. So I was expecting in my head the first scene to be Daniel and John. Is it John? It is John.
Yeah,
Is it
Jonathan,
John?
basically.
Jonathan, sorry. Yeah. I in my head I was like, it's going to be these two in a prison cell, plotting on scraps of toilet paper, then flushing it down so no one can find it. And when I saw this exhibit, this diary note, I was just like, okay, cool. Instantly, I was caught off guard, and then I was just like, yeah, man, this is a book I'm going to enjoy. This is a book I'm
Yeah,
going to enjoy
awesome.
because he only, you say, he's not in it too much. Tinker, he's in there every so often. It's just enough to make. He's like one of those characters on TV you're not supposed to like, but when he does come on the screen, you're glued to him, and he's like, right, cool, cool, yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones. I shouldn't like Ramsay Bolton, but my God, every time he was on screen, I loved it. But yeah, I just thought that was so brilliant and simplistic. Because there are some other books that do have diary excerpts or excerpts, I should say, or but it doesn't really add to the story. Whereas yours is like, I can't put it into words, man. I'm loving it. It's fucking brilliant.
Thank
It's
you.
a big decision. Um,
Thank you.
I think that's sort of all the questions that I sort of have. But I've just before we close up here, Lachlan, you spoke about your screenwriting, the resolution coming out shortly. What else can we expect from you in future if everything goes according to plan? Before you become a big Hollywood producer, what can we expect in the next couple of years?
Um, so to be honest, like I'm on a path of just taking it slowly. I'm looking towards the traditional route. I'm looking towards just like I didn't try that before. And yeah, I'm just spending time like slowly like putting it towards competitions and stuff and basically seeing what happens. But I've already written a thriller book for my second book, but it's not like this book. This book's like a psychological thriller book.
Yeah.
um this other one that I've written, it's a supernatural thriller book. So
Okay.
it's set in the Bronx in New York City, whereas the resolution was based in Australia. You got really Australian characters. So it's gone to the other side of the world. And like you still have shifty characters, but they're not sort of the same sort of like real psychotic people. They're sort of more sort of criminal type people.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I have sort of similar themes, but yeah, it's still very different. And yeah, like quick blurb, it's about like this guy who owns an apartment in the Bronx that's haunted, and he wants to burn down this apartment and cash in on the insurance because yeah, he's run out of money. He needs money
Yeah.
bad. Um, but yeah, it's haunted, and there's also this fire marshal in the fire department who is like, you know, planting false evidence so this guy won't be caught, and he's working with this other guy who's burning down buildings. So you got like, yeah, like I said, like criminal characters, set in New York, and it's called The Tenement. And I
Called,
hope
sorry,
to,
right?
The Tenement.
The Tenement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a tenement is like a really slummy building, and they have
Yeah.
heaps of tenements in New York City.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what it's called, the tenement. And I was hoping on bringing that out next year, but like I said, I'm just looking to traditional publishing, taking it slow. I don't have enough money to do independent publishing at the moment, but you know, if I decide to go the independent route, it's probably going to be like 2025, maybe. or
Okay.
yeah, but it's like I said, it's done. I want to get it out there. It's just like a matter of funding and yeah, basically just seeing what happens with just getting it out to people. And then on the side of that, like I said, I've written this young adult series, so hugely different to these other books.
Bit of a
Like I
switch
said,
up,
it's like
mate.
a
That's a
mix
bit of a
of
switch up.
1984 and the Hunger Games. And it's about like this school basically that like shapes them into like the perfect individual. But like they lose a lot of their freedoms through that. And that's like mind manipulation and stuff like that. And yeah, that's my second idea. I mean, that's my other third idea. It's called Unitopia, and I've written it as a TV pilot, and it's done really well. I've got like semi-finalists for the LA International Screenwriting Awards through with that TV pilot.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it's won other awards as well, and I think it will make a really good book. Um, and it could be done pretty sort of cheaply through the independent route. And I'm hoping to release that as a series soon. Like I probably could punch it out next year. It's just a matter of funding, and just yeah, just getting the marketing right and everything. I'll just see where it goes. And yeah, I also have a fantasy book, but I won't get into it. So yeah, a few more
No,
things on the way.
You want to go?
Yeah.
yeah, that all sounds amazing, man. Like you've got a lot going on, a lot to keep you occupied, but not rushing yourself too much. So, but we can expect more to come from you. Have you got a copy of? I've got your book written down here, The Resolution. I'm reading it now. Have you got a copy of The Resolution on you?
Yeah, I do. Here it is.
You're going to hold it up to the camera. All right. So tell everybody here, where can we get that, and when is its release date? We spoke about it briefly, but where can people find it?
So Amazon, just on my Instagram, you'll find a link on my bio. It'll take you straight to the Amazon page. I'm also going to go wide, so it'll be on Apple Books, Kobo, those other sort of outlets. So it'll all be pretty much online. And if you want a physical copy, you just have to, yeah, I think the best way to do it is order through Amazon, because then Amazon can print it off at one of their warehouses and it'll be sent to you. But yeah, it's available pretty much. It's going to go wide on the 1st of March. So yeah, you'll be able to look up any bookstore, basically, big online bookstore, and you'll be able to find it.
Excellent stuff, man. I'm really enjoying it so far. Lachlan, it's been weird doing this interview the other way around, considering how we've done our interviews before. It's been great to get to know you a bit more, and hopefully everyone else will know a bit more about you. I'm still stunned that you're good at maths. That's purely because I hate maths. But
Yeah.
this has been awesome, man, and finding out more about The Resolution. It's you wanted to start off, or you wanted your debut novel to be different, unique, and it has its own voice, man. And I'll probably have my review up for it within the next couple of days. I might drop it on my birthday because that's the release date. Who knows? But it
Awesome.
will be up, man. It's smashing it so far. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do this, and it's been great to talk to you.
No worries. Thank you very much for the interview. It was very enjoyable.
Cheers, buddy.
Awesome, man. Catch you soon.